Coming up now on Animal Outtakes, it's known as the crown jewel of the National Audubon Society Nature Centers.
The sanctuary has one of the last remaining virgin bald cypress forests left in North America.
We visit Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary in Naples, Florida.
Because so many wetlands have been lost from Southwest Florida, wetlands like those here at the sanctuary are so much more important.
And we meet a little, slightly intimidating pair of amphibious carnivores. Plus, we're on the road to redemption with this canine. See how Dante's Den Foundation is saving his life. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. Wetlands are vital to Florida's ecosystem. The quality of natural resources around them provide everything from clean drinking water to healthy habitats for wildlife. Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary encompasses 13,000 acres in Southwest Florida, and it's primarily composed of these all-important wetlands. But their researchers say the groundwater levels have dropped substantially over the past 20 years. And it's up to everyone to help fight the good fight. Let us take you on a tour of this beautiful sanctuary and show you why we should all care.
Every corner, you never know what you're going to see. You just have to look for it.
Renee Wilson knows what she's talking about.
So these plants are relatives of the pineapple, and they're called epiphytes.
From plants to animals to history, the communications associate is passionate about Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary.
Historically, these lands were viewed as useless. Mosquito and snake-infested swamps didn't do anything good for people. At least that was the thinking 100 years ago. But now we realize how important they are for our own water quality. That is something that we have come to learn, is that wetlands really help keep our water clean.
As a great book once said, Renee, in the beginning, and here we are at Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. I think we found a bit of heaven here, haven't we?
I can only agree. This place is special, and a lot of people thought about that many years ago when the sanctuary was established. You know, the sanctuary was established in 1954 by the National Audubon Society because they wanted to protect it from logging. But before the logging threat, there was another threat here that they were concerned about, and that was the plume trade.
Back at the turn of the century, hunters were killing wild birds to sell the feathers for women to wear as high fashion.
And the birds were being decimated by the millions. The Audubon Society started in 1905 with the protection of birds here in Florida. In 1912, they hired their first warden, Rhett Green, to take care of the swamp here at Corkscrew and make sure that nobody shot those birds.
And so began the journey of many, working hard to protect this pristine natural environment. In this magnificent place that we are, I have to ask, are we in the Everglades or are we a part of the Everglades?
Yes, so Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary is a critical part of the western Everglades. So as you can imagine, the Everglades is a very large part of the southern part of Florida. Pretty much everything south of Lake Okeechobee and even a good part of what's north of Lake Okeechobee are considered part of the Everglades ecosystem. And as you can imagine, when rain falls on the land, it trickles down across the surface of the land and eventually makes its way out to the sea through something called a watershed. So we are here at the Corkscrew Regional Watershed, and we are the headwaters for a lot of those trickles of water that eventually make their way out into the estuaries of the Bonita Springs and the Naples area.
While walking along the more than 2-mile boardwalk, visitors may see a variety of plants and animals. You just never know what you'll find.
We have had a lot of Florida panther sightings. We work closely with the Fish and Wildlife Commission to monitor their presence on our sanctuary. So here in Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, we have a variety of different habitats. Obviously, the swamp is the one for which the sanctuary was named, and panthers are commonly found in the swamps, but they're also easily seen in areas like this. This is an upland habitat, and there have been times when people have seen them even on the boardwalk. Yep, so just last year, we have a trail camera. We have several trail cameras that have been out on the sanctuary that have captured images of Florida panthers walking through our grounds. And just last year, one of those cameras captured a video of a mother panther with 2 full-grown young behind her. And that was just a couple of miles away from where we are right now. Historically, panthers were found across the entire southeastern U.S. But ranching and hunting have cut down their numbers significantly, as well as land use changes and even flood control efforts have isolated them south of Caloosahatchee River and Lake Okeechobee primarily. So once you're south of those areas, you're much more likely to see a panther. Their numbers have been increasing slowly over the decades since they were down to almost only 30 animals left in 1980s. So they have been rebounding due to a variety of conservation efforts. So their numbers are growing, and they do hang out where they feel safe. So they probably like the sanctuary here because of the diverse habitat and the food opportunities that they can find. And there's not a lot of disturbance here in the sanctuary. We often see otters from the boardwalk, and sometimes they climb up on the boardwalk and hang out and put on a show for our guests. And it's usually quite entertaining to watch.
They are. They're little characters, aren't they? But are they friendly?
Don't get too close. They have mouths full of teeth, and they're really good at shredding fish. Birds are by far the most observed species because there are so many different types of birds that live here. So there's a lot of woodpeckers, red-shouldered hawks, bald eagles. There's certainly a variety of wading birds like white ibis, great egret, great blue herons make nests here. There's roseate spoonbills are one of the most beautiful species to see. So birds tend to be the top of the list, but we also frequently see raccoons and squirrels.
How important is it that this sanctuary stay exactly this way, the sanctuary? And could it ever be sold and something urban crawl come in here and destroy this magnificent area?
So we have 13,000 acres in ownership by the National Audubon Society here. We have a boundary drawn around it on paper, and that essentially is keeping any buildings out for now. But there is development creeping up on all sides of us. And as you can imagine, the boundary that we draw around our property is only on paper, and it doesn't do anything to protect it from a lot of external influences, such as invasive exotic species and other threats like water loss. One of the studies we've just completed is trying to understand why water levels in the sanctuary have been dropping prematurely on an annual basis for about the past 20 years. So this is one of our water level gauges, and we have a staff member that comes out here and checks this gauge every day, and we have 60 years of data on water levels right here. Water levels in the sanctuary have a certain trend. They are very low in the winter, and then by summertime the rain starts falling in Florida, our wet season approaches, the water levels start to rise, getting to their peak in summertime, and then slowly start to trickle off as dry season approaches towards October, November, and December. However, we've noticed that there's less water in the sanctuary around those shoulder seasons, the dry season. There's much less water here than there used to be 20 years ago. A lot of this is because of excess use by neighbors. There's groundwater being pulled out. There's canals and flood systems in place to protect communities from flooding, that shunts the water away from the sanctuary and rushes it out to the Gulf of Mexico much too quickly. Let me explain a little bit about what a wetland does. And that is, it holds water in a spot, and it sits on the surface of the land, and it slowly seeps down, recharging our aquifers. It also gradually oozes across the surface of the land till it meets the sea. At least historically, that's how it was through the river of grass that is known as the Everglades. Since people have arrived, a lot of changes have been made to the way our land works, the way the water flows, and the importance of protecting property and people from the dangers of flooding, which is real. However, wetlands like those here at the sanctuary store excess surface water. Runoff comes into these areas and it holds it here until it can gradually make its way. When we start to channelize the surface of this land and send water through canals out to the sea, it will reduce the opportunity for that water to be cleansed and filtered through these plants, their roots, and the limestone. Goes right out to sea, where nutrients that may have been picked up by that surface water can then become a direct pollutant in our estuaries and our Gulf of Mexico.
Renee hopes visitors carry a new appreciation for those who made this sanctuary possible.
This was going to be logged. The sanctuary has one of the last remaining virgin bald cypress forests left in North America. Some of the trees here are some of the oldest cypress trees in Florida, at least, and the thought that they almost got cut down, it should make people feel lucky that this is still here. People should want to spend more time in places like this because there's fewer and fewer places like this anymore. Keep your eyes open, notice the nature that's around you, and hopefully appreciate it, because if we don't do anything to keep it safe, it won't stay safe.
So how can you help? Start with a visit. You can go online to their website for more information. And you can also become involved in community efforts to protect water resources. Coming up next, we visit Sarasota Jungle Gardens to get a good look at these two. Plus, a little later in the show, we introduce you to Blaze. See how trainers are working to give him a chance at a better life. We'll be right back.
These last few months have been challenging for everyone, especially me. I've walked many, many miles. I learned new tricks. I lost my afternoon nap time. I've stayed up many nights watching movie after movie after movie. I'm suffering from cabin fever. I'm in need of a renewed spirit.
Dante's Den is the perfect boarding solution for your dog, whether it's an overnight, short, or extended stay. Dante's offers the convenience, amenities, and overall luxury your pet is seeking. Spacious, air-conditioned dens have private patios, overlooking scenic pool and lakeside views, a sparkling pool with fountains to play in, surrounded by chaste loungers and a staff that will cater to their every wish. To make a boarding reservation for your pup, call us at 941-219-3730. Welcome back. Caimans are members of the alligator family, part of a larger group called crocodilians. These carnivorous reptiles come in all sizes. So I'm happy to report the two you are about to meet were on the smaller side. Flavio, I don't think we'd recognize you if you didn't have some gators or caimans in your hand, and now you've got two of them, and they are very expressive.
Yeah, so these are dwarf caiman, and they're from South America area. If you can see them in ditches. If you're walking through the jungle in the middle of the night, you're like, whoa, there's one sitting right there. So you can find them out of the water, under the water. And if you notice, they're really dark in color, so they blend in with the bottom of the jungle, and also when they're in the water. If you ever hit the jungles down that way, the water's black, black water, kind of like our waters here in Florida, so they blend in really well. And if you look underneath on the bottom, it's kind of spotted, but not really bright white. And that means that they are going to be totally dark. Some of the ones in the wild are really dark on their bottoms, so they're not going to be in open water. They're going to be in small creeks and streams, stuff where you're like, I wouldn't picture seeing a croc or a caiman inside there. So you can find them just about anywhere there's water or no water, and they like to get into roots, cave under roots and stuff like that. And when they're little guys like this, anything will eat them. And then they only get about maybe 5 to 6 feet long. And you may see something about a little bit bigger than this, and it could be a full-grown adult. And they'll have a nest out there, just a little nest. And you never know what you may see, but if you look at their heads, they have a really interesting head shape. It's kind of smooth and it's
So
real
what
thick.
is a caiman?
It's an alligator.
It's just another form.
It's like a South American alligator, basically. They're part of the same family. They're not crocodiles. They belong to alligators. And as a general rule, alligators and crocodiles, alligators can go in temperate areas. It means they can go into cool spots. You can find them all the way up north to Virginia or Oklahoma, and if you go down south, you can go all the way down to Argentina and find caiman as well. So they can handle those cool spots. Crocodiles, they tend to stay right in the Tropic of Cancer, equatorial areas and stuff like that, but these guys can handle some cool weather and cool water.
Now they're very verbal.
Yes.
Are they telling us something, or is
Yes.
this normal?
They're saying, help, help, help me. And I'm waiting for someone to come and help them, but we'll put them back in. But a lot of times when crocs and alligators get caught, especially when they're little, they have these verbalizations, and it's to call another animal over to maybe scare the predator away. When these get a little bit bigger, caiman will eat other caiman, jaguars will eat these, anacondas, big snakes, they will eat them as well. There's, when they're little guys, there's big insects and spiders out there down there, bird-eating spiders, stuff like that. They could probably eat one of these things too if they're getting the wrong spot.
Now what is amazing is you've been holding this now for a few minutes. They don't close the jaws at all. They just keep verbalizing.
No, they're showing their tools. They're saying, hey, look what I got over here. Please stay away. And I'm trying to be really careful, and I'm just letting them rest. I'm just putting my hand on them so they don't, shake out of my hand and bite me on the way down. We don't want that to happen.
And then jump into my arms,
yes.
right?
But they do have a nice punch on them right now. If you look at their heads, these things are made to eat mollusks. They'll eat fish too, but they'll eat snails and insects, all kinds of things, but they have some crunching power. And they're really spiny when you touch their skin. If you look at their backs, sometimes when in the wild, they're really spiky. So when you hold on to them like this, they're actually poking your fingers. It actually hurts. But when they're in captivity, they tend to be buffed a little bit, so they're not as sharp.
You and I have talked over the years about the pet trade, and illegal and otherwise. Are these part of it, or do we leave them alone?
So this is probably one of the most common pets of all the crocodiles and alligators out there are these types right here. And the reason why is because they don't get very large. So if you bought an alligator as a hatchling at 8 inches long, that thing can grow up to 12, 13 feet. So this one right here, max, maybe 4 or 5 feet long. I've seen some good sized ones that push a little bit further than that, but they don't get very large, so a lot of people seek these out for pets. In Florida, you're not allowed to have pets with crocodiles or alligators or caiman. You can have them for education. You can have them for display purposes, but in other states in the United States and other countries, people do have them as pets. And some people have had them for a long time. You may get them when you're a kid, and next thing you know, you're 45 years old and you still got that pet caiman that's part of the family. And they can really be a part of the family. They're not quite as affectionate like a cat or a dog, but you can train them, you can potty train them, you can do all kinds of things with them.
Yeah, but you certainly wouldn't let them just walk around the house.
You know what? People do that. People really do that. Yeah, they do it. But for the most part, they like to be, and they're very secluded. They're shy animals. They stay away from people typically. And a lot of people eat these in other countries as well. So they're part of the supper plate in some of these areas. If you can grab it, it's pretty easy to grab hold of, especially if it's in a small creek or stream. So it's not hard to elude from you, and you get them, and then you can eat them.
But they're an important part of our ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, they take care inside the forest floor. You know, that's where you have the creeks and that, and they'll eat frogs, like I said, snakes, a little bit of everything. So everything's part of that food web. And when you get into the jungle and these areas where you have high, diversity, everybody's got a part, everything, and it's amazing the diversity you find in just 1 square meter.
Stick around. There's more Animal Outtakes after the break. In this week's Breaking Barriers segment, we focus our attention on Blaze. His original owners couldn't handle his bad behavior and were about to have him put down. Luckily, he was led to Dante's Den Foundation, where trainers are trying their best to help him overcome his serious behavior issues.
So this young man is Mr. Blaze. Blaze is a boxer pit mix. He's about 3 years old. Say hello, Blaze. Good boy. So Blaze is a very active, very happy, very energetic young man. Some of the issues the other staff members are having with him is his energy level. So he and I come out and we'll work for about a half hour each time, try to burn off some of that energy while we're working on his obedience at the same time. So Blaze, hip, sit, Blaze, hip, sit, thank you, relax. So we just started working on down with Blaze. His basic obedience, again, we're just in our 5th session together. So he's getting the downs in. He's a very strong, very energetic young man who likes to run. He is not dog aggressive that I have found yet, but he is very, very playful. You ready? So Blaze was surrendered to Dante's Den. So we're gonna go through a lot of training with him so we can get him rehomed so we have a better life. Come, buddy. Oh, he's a good boy. Oh, he's a good boy. Come, hip. Every dog is a little different. Blaze is just, he would be a great agility dog. So right over here, we're gonna be building our new agility facility. And I'm gonna be working with Blaze on some jumps and some crawl throughs. He's got too much energy just to be sitting at home. He's not gonna be your porch dog like a lab. He needs to be out working. So agility will be his thing. Yeah, he jumps all around. A lot of the other staff members have a hard time with him. He just needs to be out. He's gonna pull a little bit. Just relax. Let him take you around the yard until he gets comfortable with you, and then you shouldn't have too much more of a problem. He just wants to be a part of somebody. Oh, bud. Oh, that's a good boy. Yeah, most people when they surrender the dog, they give us the happy story. They don't give us what the issues were prior to the surrender. So we only get 50% of the story. I know. You want to run in there? Unconditional, you know, love, support, friendship. Dogs are great. You know, it's one of those things where no matter what happens, we're always in a good mood, me and any of the dogs as we're working. It's just calming, and we just have a great time. All the dogs, when they come in, they have to have the downtime first so they can get acclimated to their environment here. We can't just take them in and intake on that same day, start training them. They need time to meet the staff, understand their new surroundings. And he's just a fun and happy dog. He just needs more time with people out here. Huh, buddy?
For more information on Blaze or the training programs, visit dantesden.org. And we'll be right back. Animal Outtakes is produced by Dante's Den Foundation, a nonprofit group dedicated to creating the best life for dogs. If you would like to learn more about Dante's Den, donate, or volunteer, visit our website, dantesden.org. We hope you have fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with more animals and even more encounters. Until then, thanks for watching.